Walt Disney was fired from his first job at the Kansas City Star newspaper because his editor told him he lacked imagination and had no good ideas. He was 20 years old, and the rejection stung, but it did not stop him. He started a small animation company called Laugh-O-Gram Studios in Kansas City, producing short cartoon films for local theaters. The company went bankrupt within 2 years. Disney was so broke that he could not afford rent and resorted to eating dog food to survive. He slept in his office and bathed once a week at the nearby train station. In 1923, with $40 in his pocket and a suitcase full of drawing materials, Disney boarded a train to Hollywood. He and his brother Roy set up a studio in their uncle's garage and began producing a series called the Alice Comedies, mixing live action with animation. The series was moderately successful, and Disney created a new character called Oswald the Lucky Rabbit. Oswald became a hit, but when Disney traveled to New York to negotiate a better deal with his distributor, he discovered that the distributor had secretly hired away most of his animators and owned the rights to Oswald. Disney had lost his own creation and most of his staff in a single meeting. On the train ride back to California, devastated but determined, Disney began sketching a new character. He originally called it Mortimer Mouse, but his wife Lillian convinced him to change the name to Mickey. Mickey Mouse debuted in Steamboat Willie in 1928, one of the first cartoons with synchronized sound, and became an instant sensation. Within 2 years, Mickey Mouse was the most famous cartoon character in the world, and Disney's name was known in every household in America. But Disney was not content to repeat a winning formula. He wanted to do something no one had ever attempted. In 1934, Disney announced he would produce the first full-length animated feature film. The entire Hollywood establishment called it Disney's Folly. Industry insiders predicted that no audience would sit through an 80-minute cartoon and that the project would bankrupt the studio. The film, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, took 3 years to produce, cost $1.5 million, an astronomical sum during the Great Depression, and nearly did bankrupt Disney when it ran over budget. He mortgaged his house to finish it. Snow White premiered on December 21, 1937, and the audience, which included Hollywood's biggest stars, gave it a standing ovation. It earned $8 million in its initial release, making it the highest-grossing film of all time at that point. Disney used the profits to build a new studio in Burbank and followed Snow White with Pinocchio, Fantasia, Dumbo, and Bambi. But the Second World War devastated the studio's finances, cutting off European markets that accounted for nearly half its revenue. A bitter animators' strike in 1941 further damaged the company. Disney spent the war years producing training films for the military and nearly went bankrupt again. After the war, Disney began dreaming even bigger. He envisioned an amusement park unlike anything that existed, a place where families could step into the worlds of his films. Every banker and advisor he approached told him it was a terrible idea. Amusement parks were dirty, dangerous places with a bad reputation. Disney's own brother, Roy, initially refused to fund it. Disney borrowed against his life insurance, sold his vacation home, and convinced ABC Television to invest in exchange for a weekly TV show. Disneyland opened in Anaheim, California, on July 17, 1955. The opening day was a disaster of melted asphalt, broken rides, and counterfeit tickets. Critics called it a nightmare. Within 7 weeks, 1 million people had visited Disneyland. Within a decade, it had become the most famous amusement park on Earth. Disney went on to win 22 Academy Awards, more than any individual in history, and built an entertainment empire that today generates over $80 billion in annual revenue. He died of lung cancer in 1966 at the age of 65, 5 years before Walt Disney World opened in Florida. The man who was told he had no imagination, who lost his first character, who was called foolish for every major decision he ever made, built a kingdom that has brought joy to billions of people. His story proves that every rejection is simply a redirection toward something greater.